I've learnt so much as a line manager, which I'm going to take back to the workplace myself.
The information was amazing. So many people resonated, and there was actually a lot of functional information.
My favourite thing was the talks from Colin. I think he got the information across really accessibly, but also in a way that I felt was sympathetic to people with ADHD.
Loved hearing about the different lived experiences from Tom and from Demet. Both brought a completely different viewpoint across, so really fascinating to hear.
I wholeheartedly recommend it. 11 out of 10 or 100 out of 10.
I think they give you really practical takeaways and an opportunity to network with other people in this field in a safe environment.
This was really well thought through, brilliant speakers. People really need to check this stuff out.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another skill sessions. Whilst everybody's flooding in, I'll tell you a little bit about skill sessions and what it is you've just joined. So welcome to everybody. So another skill session. So skill sessions is an event series hosted by CareScribe. It is designed to share knowledge about areas of neurodiversity and disability and help to build and foster an inclusive community where these sorts of topics can be discussed. And each event is based on a different topic, and today's topic and today's speaker is Anley, an educational psychologist and director of training at Connections in Mind. Very happy to have Casey here with us today, covering a really interesting topic, which is executive functioning, or executive functioning 101. So lovely to see so many of you here. As you already are doing, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from, what your background is. It'll be fantastic to get the chat going. Fantastic, everybody's joining. That's brilliant. And a reminder to change your chat settings to all. Otherwise, you're just sending it to panelists, and we love to hear from you. But share it with everybody if you feel like you can. And yeah, we encourage you to post throughout. So please do get involved. We often have a really engaged and vibrant chat going, which is always wonderful at these events. So I mentioned CareScribe, that's who we are. CareScribe run these events. So let me tell you a little bit about CareScribe if you don't already know. So my name is Rich. I'm one of the founders and directors of CareScribe. And for those of you who haven't heard of us before, CareScribe is an assistive technology company based in sunny Bristol. Myself and the other two co-founders, Chris and Tom, are neurodivergent, as are many of our team. And as a company, we spend every day working to support disabled and neurodivergent individuals to work and study more independently. And we do that by building technology. Our software tools, if you haven't heard of them before, are Captioned and TalkType. What are they, I hear you ask? Well, Captioned is a piece of software that supports with captioning and note-taking, so to help people to better comprehend and retain some of the huge amounts of information that are thrown at us every day in our kind of busy lives. Of course, that's of tremendous value to those with a wide range of disabilities, from neurodivergent profiles, for example, for those who are deaf or have hearing loss, who may find it difficult to maybe comprehend what's being said, to those like me who are dyslexic, have ADHD or ASD, who maybe have similar difficulties or find it hard to focus and retain information, or even those with maybe a motor impairment who maybe find it hard to or difficult to get their thoughts down in a timely manner. So Captioned is there to really take the pain out of that process and to make more sense of the noise and help people to comprehend exactly what's being said and retain as much of it as possible. Our other software is called TalkType, which is a dictation tool. So it helps people to convert their thoughts into text, something that a wide range of people find very challenging for a wide range of reasons, myself very much included in that. So if you want to find out any more about our assistive technology or CareScribe, please feel free to pop something in the chat or in the feedback at the end, and we can set you up with a demo. And also there's lots more information about the business and our products online as well at our website. So please check that out. But do let us know if you want us to reach out and set up a demo. Okie doke, more people still joining, fantastic. So a bit of housekeeping. Captions are available throughout the session, so please turn them on yourself within Zoom. if you need them. Also, if you find the chat distracting for any reason, then you can turn off notifications. You can hide the chat preview. So if you click on the chat and then select hide chat previews, that'll just stop that for you. So it's less distracting if you find that difficult. Keep the chat going if you want to engage with it. It's fantastic to see so many of you joining and engaging on these calls. There's also the Q&A function, which we do use. So if you've got questions for me or you've got questions for Casey, then please pop your questions in there. We'll have some dedicated time at the end to go through those questions. And if you see somebody's asked a question that you think, oh, I really want that answered, then do upvote it, because we'll try and make sure we go through the questions and we make sure we get to those priority ones that have been upvoted. No wrong questions, safe place to learn. You'll be glad to know this session is recorded. So if you miss anything, don't worry. You're going to get an email from us tomorrow, and it's going to be on LinkedIn as well. So you can go back and you can revisit the session with the transcript, with Casey's slide decks, and the recording and resources that we talk about in the webinar. Well, that's my bit and sort of welcome done. And the last thing I need to do is welcome Casey, who's joining us, as I said, from Connections in Mind. She's a real expert on this topic, and she's going to be talking to us about executive functioning. So, Casey, I'm going to hand over to you now. And yeah, I'll be back on at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. And just so lovely to be here with all of you today. And thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to you about executive functioning. I absolutely buzz about this topic. So you see, I've got ADHD, and I'm going to hyper focus into this webinar. So if you do have any questions or anything in the chat, please do pop them into that Q&A. I don't always keep an eye on the chat. As I say, I totally hyper-focus there. So then hopefully one of the team can just assist there and just pop it into the Q&A, or you're welcome to do that yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and just upload my slide deck. Okie dokes. So really excited to get started. I've got a lot to tell you today, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to squish everything into this 40-odd minute presentation. But as Rich said, we will be sharing the recording tomorrow, and there's a handout which I'm going to ask one of the team to pop into the chat. You're welcome to go and take a look at the handout. We've got lots of different links and goodies. I'll be talking about that today. So Executive Functioning 101, what is it and how does it affect us? So let's get going. Right. If you've never used Menti before, it is amazing. And it's a way that we can really engage with you as the audience. So go ahead and grab your phone. You can open up your QR reader or your camera, scan that code, and you can actually follow along then on your phone. And we're going to ask a couple questions and you can actually vote. So it's a really nice interactive bit. I really enjoy the interaction, and it just really helps me engage even more in the presentation. So you can also open up a browser on your computer. You can just go to menti.com. It's going to ask you for a code. And I wonder if I can quickly just copy paste that code into the chat. Just popped it in there as well. It's actually a very nice, nifty, direct link. So let me see if I can draw. There we go. So that direct link takes you exactly then straight to that voting thing. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a little bit from my side. The team is going to be dropping in that handout. It does have some clickable links, so you're welcome to take a look at that later. I will be referring to a couple of things in the presentation today, but what we're going to be diving into are what are executive functions. We are very big about the neuroscience behind executive functions and their link with neurodiverse traits. We're also going to have a look at an introduction to approaches to identify and help build those stronger executive functioning skills. All right. So why are you here today? All right. So you're welcome to join us there on the voting, either through scanning your QR code or just clicking on that direct link in the chat. So amazing. This is why I love the software, that we really can get a snapshot of why we are here today. All right, so I can see the majority of us there are for my students. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my background in the next slide. But I come from an education background initially, so this is really exciting for me. I've also then worked, as Rich indicated, I am an educational psychologist, used to do a lot of assessments. So I hear you for my clients there as well. For myself, amazing. We're going to be talking about aha moments when we suddenly connect with executive functions. So amazing that you are here. For my children, awesome. General interest, welcome, welcome. And we've got some other there as well. Fantastic, thank you. And this really gives me a nice read of the room for the presentation there. So awesome. Okay, so I'm going to get us kick-started here with another bit of our interactive piece here. Describe yourself in 3 words. So it's really a group effort in this presentation here. So you're going to see what we're going to be doing here. Totally anonymous this. So if you describe yourself in 3 words, it's going to create a really lovely word cloud, which we're going to be talking to. And I must let you know that the bigger the words, it means that more than one person has indicated. So look at that. We've got kind, warm, and curious. Busy. Yep, I hear that. I hear that. So all these beautiful words that are coming up here to describe ourselves. I'm reading there. Empathetic is also really big. Friendly, funny, compassionate, neurodiverse, energetic, awesome, considerate. I can see a whole bunch of wonderful, interested, creative. And it's so lovely to be able to see, how people see themselves, because sometimes our perception of ourselves is influenced by society, and we're going to be having a look at how that actually influences our identity then as well. So thank you so much for sharing. It's really wonderful to see how many responses we're getting there. Really, really awesome. Okie doke, so a little bit about me. So I'm going to start kind of right from the beginning, because it kind of explains how I ended up in Connections in Mind. So you may hear from my accent, I am South African. I grew up in a very small town right on the Western Cape, right at the bottom of South Africa. And I went to a very small school called Oakhill. And the tagline of Oakhill was the joy of learning. And I think I was so lucky and fortunate to have that experience of having learning that was fun. It was individualized. It was a small school. And it was really interesting. That was my first experience of learning. Then I went and studied at Stellenbosch University. I did my PGCE, so I am a qualified teacher. I did my master's in educational psychology, and it was there where I started to realize, hang on, this is not a general view of education. A lot of people have not had this happy, joyful experience of learning. My brother had significant challenges then with some of what we can have a look at now as ADHD traits, most definitely, totally undiagnosed. And it was, I think, looking through that lens and seeing some of the struggles, seeing some of my friends' struggles there as well, it was really interesting for me to see how other people were experiencing education. It was only really when I was doing my university, so when I was doing my honors and masters in educational psychology, I was then doing some tutoring on the side, and a lot of my clients were starting to experience, or I noticed they were experiencing this, the typical challenges that we now know of ADHD. And even in my training, educational psychology, we didn't really learn a lot about what it looks like to support people who are neurodivergent. It really took me when I started lecturing. I lectured psychology for a little while, and there I could see I started my executive functioning coaching. A lot of my clients were saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm starting to feel really, anxious as the workload increases. I'm really finding that the anxiety is starting to get in my way. And as soon as I started hearing these keywords, overwhelm, anxiety, time management challenges, working memory, which we'll be chatting about today. As soon as I started to hear that, and then I read more, I learned more, there was this aha or light bulb moment for me. And I thought, hang on a moment, I can identify with this. And if you can identify with this, drop this in the chat. If this was your experience of having that aha moment with, hang on a minute, there's anxiety pieces, there's this overwhelm, there's this time management. Some of these challenges are really starting to trip me up. And then I went for my diagnosis, and blow me down, I've got ADHD. And it was so bizarre that I was supporting all these people, didn't really pick it up. And it makes so much sense to me now that I'm kind of in this work. And then I discovered Connections in Mind, and it's just been such a wonderful journey, because I think it's a small organization. We're all neurodivergent, and it's just felt like such a welcoming space. I'm going to be talking a little bit about, just about what we do at the end of this presentation as well. So that's just me in a real nutshell. So when I speak about this repeated crisis, I noticed that in school, my anxiety definitely followed me to university, then it followed me into the workplace. And every single job that I've had, there's been this sense of overwhelm, there's been a lot of anxiety. And I just thought, there must be something more behind this. And yes, that my diagnosis of ADHD has definitely helped me to understand that. But I think it was really doing this work, having this aha moment, meeting other people who have gone down this journey then as well. I've learned strategies to manage my anxiety. We're going to be talking about those in a bit. But I just I'm so passionate about working with people to understand their brains better and their brain states. So one of my light bulb moments, I was working within a school, and a parent recommended that I read this book, the Smart But Scattered series. So Doctors Peg Dawson and Richard Guire, amazing authors. They've got an entire series, which I'll be talking about later. They do not sponsor the work that we do, but we are just so passionate about what they do. This is really like the guidebook of executive functioning. And I love that title. Just the title alone spoke to me. Smart but scattered. And so many of my clients, so many of my students, I could just see that this touched on and reflected so many of them. So I think once I discovered Peg Dawson, coincidentally, our founder of Connections in Mind, also this was her light bulb moment. And so we nerd out a lot on Peg Dawson's work there. So if you read nothing else on executive functioning, this series, there's a children, a teens, university student, and an adult version. All right, so not a small mission. We want to change the world, and we really want to be able to help people to understand themselves better. We are all about supporting people to overcome their challenges, and there are lots of different ways that we do that. So let's just dive in. I'd love to get a bit of a reading of the room. It really helps me then to pitch how I present the information on executive functioning. So do go ahead and scan that QR code, and you're welcome to open up a browser if you like. I'm going to quickly drop that code into the chat then again, if you would like to just open up an internet browser and follow along there. So I can see we're middle of the road at the moment. So we've got about midway knowledge. So it's not, so maybe there are some people who've never heard of executive functions, and amazing. I love experiencing those aha moments with you. But we also have some people then who are more on the expert side. So we're going to nerd out completely on that today. So fantastic, amazing. I can see we're around the halfway mark. So awesome. That really helps me. Thank you. So that I can really think about how to pitch this. I'm going to give you the core, the basic, as well as then dip into some interesting science and the neuroscience behind what we do. All right. So what are executive functions? So if we think about our brain, the little bit right behind our forehead here is what we call the prefrontal cortex. And that's the cognitive processes which reside in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So these are responsible for the effective, timely execution of tasks. So there's that executive functions, execution of tasks, and really important, the regulation of our emotions and behavior. So how do we know about them? Interestingly enough, scientists have only really discovered that executive functions are cognitive processes and not character flaws in the last 20 years, since they started using MRI scanners, so that we could actually peer into the brain and see what was happening in the brain. So a lot of people, and myself included, there was a lot of negative talk that I would have with myself. I'm just going to be anxious like this all the time. It's just hardwired into my brain. I'm lazy. I can't, when I feel like I'm procrastinating, I can't get stuck into something. I'll tell myself I'm lazy, and I have to catch that now and really reinforce my strengths when that happens to me. So we know there's a lot of science that tell us then that it is processes that are happening in that prefrontal cortex, which can either help us to really function optimally or can hinder some of the processes that we have. So who is affected? Everyone has a unique executive functioning footprint. We all have some things that we're really strong at and some things that are real challenges for us. So for me, I'm going to be talking about the different executive functions, but I can tell you that working memory, the ability to hold things in mind, that is the most difficult thing for me. So if I have to remember a set of directions, if you tell me, walk down the road, turn left, turn right, there is a post office and then a tree, you lost me at walk down the road. I really struggle to hold different processes in mind. So that's working memory, and that is something that I struggle with. It's one of my challenges, but I can be pretty good at time management. That's one of my strengths. So everyone, as I say, has a different executive functioning fingerprint or footprint. So on page 1 of your handouts, I'm going to ask the team if they wouldn't mind just popping that into the chat there again. I believe it will also be in your email tomorrow as well. There is actually a survey that you can take. So it's for adults as well as parents if you'd like to figure out and learn a little bit more about your own footprint or your children's footprint. It gives a really nice report, and you can start to learn what your own footprint looks like as well. All right, so what does this mean for our lives? These things really do impact our day-to-day lives. So it's those meeting deadlines, it's prioritizing work to be completed. When I feel overwhelmed and anxious, I really struggle to actually prioritize and think about all the different things that I have to do and to write to-do lists. Those are really challenges for me. And I've had to learn a lot of strategies over the years to support this executive functioning. So we're going to be talking about that in a minute. Regulating emotions. How do I, when I start to feel flustered, how do I start to bring myself back like that? Inhibit responses, so to not blurt out in an inappropriate time, to organize belongings, and here's the important thing, organizing our thoughts on paper. If anyone can resonate with this, let us know in the chat there. I don't know about you, but it made a whole lot of sense in my head, but sometimes getting it down on paper can be super tricky. So there's that holding information in our head, there's that working memory piece, keeping time. So time blindness is a real thing, not only in ADHD, but also, part of that executive functioning process there is that time management bit. And the thinking flexibly as well. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit and the research behind that as well. So again, let's get a bit of a reading of the room. So which of these challenges do you struggle with? So again, you're welcome to scan that QR code. And we're going to start to have a look at the ones that are popping up here. All right, so I can see one person has voted here. We've got regulated emotions, prioritizing work to be completed. Oh, yes. And I've got some fellow working memory challenges. I've got some people who also experience that. Look at that, 32. So if you have just joined us, you're more than welcome to scan that QR code and you can hop onto the voting platform here and join us so that we can really learn a little bit about what our audience, how our audience are responding here. So I love this. Look at that. 54, we've got 54 votes there for, or percentage, should I say, of the votes holding information our heads, regulating emotions. Oh, I feel you. I can resonate with that. Prioritizing work to be completed. Oh, that's a real struggle for me. Inhibiting responses. Look at that. Organizing thoughts on paper. All right. Fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing. Sometimes it can be the first time that we've really thought about this, put it down, put it out there into the world. Even though this is anonymous, it can be quite something just to take stock of where our executive functions are at this time. So thank you so much for voting. Really lovely to get a snapshot here of our audience. We're going to dig a little bit deeper there. So what emotions did you feel the last time you struggled with holding information in mind, time management, organizing your thoughts in paper? Okay, so we've got some words popping up in our word cloud here, and it always catches me a little bit in my throat here, because these words, I can feel the emotion coming out here. And again, the bigger the words come up, it means that more and more of you are sharing these. So look how big those frustration pieces, the overwhelm, the embarrassment, absolutely. There's that anxious point coming up again, disappointed, guilty, inadequate. Again, I can really feel the emotions behind these. Thank you so much for sharing that. And amazing, we've got 145 responses here. You're welcome to put as many as you like in here. Again, can be really powerful just to say these out aloud. Wow, look at these. A lot of frustration, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of anxiety and embarrassment. Thank you so much for sharing there. In the interest of time, I am going to move on, but there is some space there in your handouts as well, just to carry on with this reflection here. So now we're digging even deeper. So what is at the root of these emotions? What is coming up for you there? Where do you think these things come from? That shame, that frustration, that embarrassment, that overwhelm. Look at these things coming up. They're being different. Feelings of failure, comparison, self-doubt. Yes, the childhood trauma, we're going to be touching on that today. Society, I think our society definitely favors those neurotypical type of traits, or those near perfect executive functions, being able to be on time all the time, be able to regulate our emotions. So I think there can be a lot of discrimination against us when we do feel these very normal things. Oh, I feel this one, not being able to see a task as easy. It has to be complicated. It's almost like we have to prove our worth by working hard. In a task that maybe it can be super easy for other people. A lot of trauma coming up, expectations, this fitting in with norms, feeling inadequate in comparison to my peers. Poor teachers, yes. Poor teacher, being misunderstood, struggle between big picture and the details. Yes, I can get stuck into the details, and I can struggle with that big picture as well. And I'm really seeing the root of these emotions, that failure piece. Is a lot of expectations. And I wonder, society, parents, teachers, and a lot of difference. A lot of difference. Thank you so much for sharing here. I think it's really, really powerful that we can have a look at this. As I say, these are completely anonymous. Really, I feel really touched and honored that you have shared these with us today. Okay, so let's dig into things here. So there are 3 core brain functions. So we like to have a look at these then as separate to our executive functioning skills. So we've got that cognitive flexibility, the ability to be able to pause and to reflect and think about other people's perspectives. So to be able to change our stance and our perspective on different things. Inhibitory controls, to stop and to think about things before we respond. And that working memory part is holding things in mind. So multiple instructions, multiple levels and steps, being able to hold all those different parts. Interestingly, there's a very interesting connection with working memory and maths. And it's only now in my later life, after I finished school, that I have recognized that perhaps one of my struggles with maths was also this working memory challenge, which the more I research it, the more I do see that there can be a connection there. So we've got those 3 brain processes, and we've got those 11 executive functioning skills. So we spoke about the cognitive flexibility, the working memory, and the inhibitory control part. But then we have a look at that planning and prioritizing. What comes first when we've got so much on our plates? Goal-directed persistence. Keep going, so that we keep going towards our goal, even when it gets difficult, even when we get distracted. Organization, being able to organize not only our belongings, ourself in space and time, but also our thoughts down on paper. Holding our attention with that sustained attention, managing time. So that also brings in that time blindness that can be just a difficulty with tracking time. The metacognition piece is really important. That self-awareness. How aware are we of these different executive functioning, both strengths and challenges that we have? And that's where the questionnaire is really helpful. You'll find that on page 1 of that handout that I've shared there, that the team has shared. We've also got that emotional regulation piece. And then being able to start a task. There comes our lovely procrastination piece there. All right, so where does this show up? Goodness me, does it show up in our education? It's not blurting out, being able to raise our hand like those youngsters there are right at the top of the list there. It is being able to reflect and have, build on our strong metacognition, to be able to get our thoughts out on paper, to have sustained attention when we are learning different things. Again, to be able to maybe study, to get our thoughts on paper, and exams take all of these different skills. And the same really goes then for work. If we think about all the different processes that need to happen there for us to really be successful in work, it's being able to work with other people, work towards our goals, have really strong time management skills, be able to plan and prioritize, and then be able to sustain our attention, regulate our emotions. All of these parts really demand strong executive functions. So if we have a look at a little bit of the neuroscience here, so we are a really big fan of Russell Barkley's work. So he is a professor at South Carolina in Charleston, and he speaks about ADHD as being a self-regulation deficit disorder, so a difficulty with regulating ourselves. And this is the part that really interests me. It's also an executive functioning deficit disorder. Because when you start to think about it, all of those symptoms then of ADHD, you can actually start to see their connections there with our executive functions. So Russell Barkley then talks about, to deal with the problems that ADHD creates, we also need to understand that it involves executive functioning deficits and strengths, and that such deficits can be compensated for by 2 things. Modifying the environment, and that's where the support comes in, as well as making other accommodations to buttress and facilitate the individual's use of their own self-control. So really, it is about providing people and providing ourselves with some of those accommodations, the support that we really need to not only support our executive functioning skills, but also to build on them as well. So dyslexia, interesting links there. We've got Horowitz and Krauss, 2019 research that's coming out there. That's just briefly, just a synopsis there. Horowitz and Krauss talk about an executive-based reading intervention. So we've got that speed of processing, the working memory, the visual attention that can improve reading ability in both children and adults with dyslexia. So there's been a move now to start to bring in more executive functioning support into dyslexia. So they also talk about the role of executive functioning in reading may have future implications for diagnosing dyslexia and improving intervention therapy. So we get so excited when we see that the research is demonstrating what we already know, is that executive functions are behind a lot of what we are seeing in our clients and our students. So I'll drop this. This will be part of the slides then. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can access them in the email tomorrow, but you'll see there's lots of different research into this kind of work, and a lot of it is talking about the working memory, the sustained attention, the response inhibition, and that emotional regulation piece as part of dyslexia. ASD, autism spectrum disorder as well. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Dimitriou and his team, there's research from 2019, who says that empirical studies suggest a broad impairment in executive functions, although there is significant inter-individual variability, which means that people will experience executive functioning challenges differently. So you might find that you will have extremely strong attention to detail, that sustained attention. But some people might find that the time management piece is really lacking. So we're finding that a lot, that interesting connection there with our ASD. So again, some really interesting research that's coming out here. This is even more recent, where we can see these results support the executive dysfunction hypothesis of ADHD, supporting that the poor frontal parietal recruitment may underlie some of the difficulties that they experience. So that means that our ability to bring our prefrontal cortex or our executive functions online, that can be what can contribute to some of the challenges that we are experiencing then with our with autism. So there are really interesting connections then with our neurodivergent traits. So we see a lot of the cognitive flexibility within our autistic traits. We see that inhibitory control a lot with our ADHD traits, but we're also seeing that working memory part that comes through really strongly then with our dyslexic traits. So the really good thing about this is we can all change our brains. There's a lot of science, science that comes out of UCL. There's Dr. Philippa Lally, who talks about 60 iterations of something for it to become a habit. So 60 times we do something that it's going to start to become more natural. So if we were to use, let's say, a phone reminder on our phone to go and get up and go for that run, let's say, after 60 times, it's starting to get into our conscious so that we get up and we think, actually, I'm going to go for a run before our phone even starts to give us that reminder. So the research, again, we can actually strengthen those neural pathways so that the signal to the brain can get there so much quicker. So really, really interesting when we look at the neuroplasticity. We've got some wonderful neuroplasticity. There's a lovely video in that handout that you can see exactly what is happening in the brain there. So we like to talk about our brain and our brain states. So there you can see we've got that prefrontal cortex at the front, and right in the middle of our brain, we've got the amygdala. So we like to think of our prefrontal cortex as our air traffic control. And that's where we really have to think before we act. Our amygdala is that threat detector, and that helps us to act before we think, or it often encourages us to act before we think. So this is a really nifty thing. You can go and have a look at Dan Siegel's work on the internet. Really, really interesting work. So he talks about the hand model, and I encourage you to do it alongside me. If you hold up your fist like this, here's your prefrontal cortex right up at the top where your knuckles are. and your amygdala is your thumb. So let's go ahead and close our fingers over our thumb. So what's happening here? We've got our brain and we're going along, and let's say there is a threat. There's a threat that happens. What happens is we literally flip our lid, which means that it's really difficult for our executive functions to help us to regulate our emotions. Here's the threat detector, and it's telling us, something's going on here, and we are responding with an emotional response. Did you know that it takes 20 minutes for our nervous system to relax so that we can close that lid back over our amygdala and we can start to think with our rational part of our brain? And the interesting thing with this is we really need to be in a regulated, calm state for us to be able to use all of our important executive functioning skills. So we do talk about that in the handout. You've got the image. You're welcome to share this as far as you like. So trauma, there's a very interesting link there with trauma, where we are starting to see from brain scans there that children who have chronic trauma, their amygdala, their emotional processing part of the brain, actually gets bigger as they develop. So it means that they haven't been able to develop these executive functioning skills because they spend so much time in this dysregulated space. And we can see with adults then as well, when we are totally dysregulated a lot of the time, it's very difficult for us to engage those 11 executive functioning skills. Our brain is offline. Our prefrontal cortex is offline. So when we talk about our well-being and our executive functioning skills, we have a look at 8 different parts of that. So there we've got safety. How safe are you feeling in yourself and in your body and in your environment? What is your exercise like? And I know for me, if I don't exercise often, I can become very dysregulated. What is your connection like for yourself and with others? Now, fun and joy are interesting things. Fun is the activities that you do. Joy is the sense of joy that you get, that happiness feeling that comes about. Calm, and how regulated are you feeling? Sleep, what is your sleep like? We know that there's a lot of connection there with our sleep and with our neurodivergent conditions there as well. And food, I don't know about you, but I often forget to eat. At the end of the day, I suddenly think, why am I so cranky? Why am I finding it difficult to regulate my emotions? It was that part there as well. Interesting connections there. Dr. Brené Brown speaks a lot about safety, connection, and belonging that are so fundamental to our belonging. And she talks about the opposite of belonging as fitting in. And isn't that interesting? Because when you first read this, you think, no, fitting in, that we feel like we fit in. But actually, fitting in is an action that is required of us to survive in the situation. So let's think of our children at school. Belonging is the institution's responsibility to help us to belong, to give us the support that we need to belong, so that our students don't have, or us as well, don't have to do all of the work and have this mask up all of the time, so that we can feel like we are a part of something. So I'm going to skip this just in the interest of time, because I can see we've got some lovely Q&As coming up here. I can see we've got a couple of questions there. So what can be done? And I did promise you that I was going to show you a strategy. This is one of my favorite strategies for planning and prioritizing. So this is just one of the things that we have a look at when we support our own clients, that we teach in our coach training, which I'll talk about in a moment. So that sense, I always have a look at the 3 checklists when we're working on planning and prioritizing. Overwhelm. Is there a sense of overwhelm? I can't even start my work with my clients if they're feeling overwhelmed, because remember, it takes 20 minutes to get our brain back online, our prefrontal cortex back online, so that we can think with our rational brain. So I do a lot of regulation activities with my clients first. I have a look, is there perfectionism? Is there people-pleasing going on? And I like to spend some time investigating that first. Then if I find, okay, right, let's get to the crux of the matter. If there's too much on, or it's unclear, we don't really know about deadlines or how to start, Now we can get working. All right. I always have a stack of paper plates in my office, and I often just show this image with my clients as well. And I ask them, what is on your plate? And literally they just brainstorm. We brainstorm together. I can ask some guiding questions, and we put everything on this paper plate for. So what is on your paper plate? And you can see often people have this moment of, oh my goodness, okay, all right, I can see there's a lot going on, but now we're going to construct a plan. This is my favorite thing to do, and there are lots of technology apps and things that you can use. This is basically, the formal name is a Kanban board. I'll go ahead and quickly drop that into the chat there. That is let me write that, a Kanban board. So I've just popped that spelling there into the chat. So a Kanban board, I like to call it a to-do, doing, done board, because that's what it does on the tin. So what we do then is we take all of our things on our plate, we write them on sticky notes, and we shove them onto the to-do list. We may even find, as we're writing on them, how important are these? Can we maybe delegate some of these? Do they need to go on our to-do list? Can we edit them at this point? Then you can see this person's actually used different color sticky notes to highlight what is work or study, what are some of the maybe the personal things, maybe the personal goals. So you can see we just throw everything on the to-do part. Then here's the trick. You are only allowed to put over 2 of those sticky notes into your second column, because we all have the tendency to try and do too much at one time. But if you can focus on getting those things done first, then you move them over to the done part, and only then can you move something over back from your to-do into the doing. And I love that at the end of the day, I can actually see all of the things that I've been able to achieve in my done column. That to me is so important and really, really helpful, not only for my self-esteem, my confidence, but I can also have a look at what of my strategies are working well. I did promise that I would give you a snapshot of those different books that I spoke about in the beginning, the Smart But Scattered series. You can see we've got a child one, an adult one, and a teen one as well. So you will find your own executive functioning profile on page 1 of your handout. You'll see there's one for adults and for parents. At Connections in Mind, we always work with connect, collaborate, and support. And there's lots of different ways that we do that. So we have 5 different types of services, and you are going to see all of these links in that handout. You're welcome to also, I'm hoping the team can pop my email address into your email tomorrow. You're welcome to throw an email over to us. So just very briefly, I know we are running out of time there. I want to reserve some space for your Q&A questions there. We've got one-to-one coaching. So if you would like us to talk through some different processes and how we can actually support with one-to-one coaching, we match you with coaches who have experience with your particular context. You'll see that you can actually book a free session that you can chat to our team and see what one-to-one coaching is all about. I head the coach training. It's my absolute passion. So we actually coach and train people to be executive functioning coaches. Connector Club, we've got a community support. I am so passionate about this as well, where we have support groups. We've got strategy groups, and people get together, like-minded people, all with executive functioning challenges and strengths that they want to connect with other people. We've got tons of resources there as well. And so you can, we'll pop a link there. It is also in your handout. We also do schools and workplace training, as well as you can then, there's actually a function, I'm sure you've done, team, you've done some work, I know, with Access to Work. Did you know that you can actually get some access to work, some government funding to get the support of a PA or a support worker? So if you go onto our website, you'll be able to see all the details with that there as well. All right, so just the last thing from me is I like to just point out that executive functioning work and supporting people is necessary for some, but actually it's good for everyone. It supports everyone you know, that you might come across. So that's me, that's my story. I tried to be bang on time here so that we do have a little bit of time there for our Q&As. Righty.
Amazing, Casey. Thank you so much. That was, yeah, brilliant and yeah, incredibly engaging. So yeah, thank you so much. And as you can see in the chat, everybody is mirroring and echoing what I'm saying there. So we've got some questions. As I mentioned before, if you've got questions, if you can pop them in the Q&A section, that's what I'm going to be looking at in the time we've got to go through some questions. There's usually quite a few questions we don't get to, and if we haven't got to your question, what we tend to do is afterwards we will either write or record some answers, and then we'll share them with all the other content. So don't worry if your question doesn't get answered. It will be, even if it's not in this hour. And please upvote questions as well. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go through and try and do go through the questions that have been upvoted. So Casey, if you're happy, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So the first one is, how much do hormones impact executive functioning? So thinking about perimenopause and adolescence.
Oh, absolutely. We've done a couple of webinars on this, actually. So we have one of our team is a neuropsychologist, and she's spoken specifically then from the brain and the impact of hormones, absolutely, through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause is definitely a connection. So if anyone's interested, you're welcome to email us at info@connectionsinmind.co.uk, and I can definitely share some more information. I'll pop that into the chat there as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And I'm going to ad-lib from a question I read earlier, which was someone had mentioned that they had struggled with their executive functioning, having moved moved location to the UK, and how much sort of environment can impact executive functioning. I thought that those two questions might go quite nicely together.
Oh, what a great, I especially love that environment one. I think is so important. And when we start to think about just the building blocks of that, when we move, our environment changes, when we're in an unfamiliar situation, often that can affect things like our safety, how safe we feel just within ourselves and in our environment. Our connection, our belonging, it can be a stressful time, so it affects our sense of calm. So I think absolutely our executive functions can go offline, and we can feel particularly emotionally dysregulated from that experience. So absolutely, I think there's definitely the role of environment there is absolutely a challenge there as well.
Amazing, thank you very much. So there's a question here. So speaking from one of our attendees, so I experienced significant intra-individual variation from day to day, hour to hour. How would you recommend explaining this to managers and work colleagues and family without feeling inadequate or shameful?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. So we actually run intro to executive functioning webinars similar to this one, but specifically for workplace inclusion as well. We've got quite a few blogs and things on our website. If you wouldn't mind popping me an email, you're welcome to get directly to me at Casey@ConnectionsInMind. I'm more than happy to send you some links there. We've also got some very short intro to executive functioning talks that you can share with your managers, with your family as well. I think the more that we can talk about this, the more that we can support our managers to understand, support our family to understand not only what is happening in our brain, but also what it is that we need to be able to flourish and feel safe and like we belong. It's super, super important.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Casey. Another great question here, which is a deficit in executive function always connected with another condition like ADHD, dyslexia, autism, or is it a separate diagnosis or condition in itself?
Oh, such a great question. I think, I really resonated with what Russell Barkley spoke about as ADHD as being an executive functioning deficit disorder, because I think what we're finding is we've got these executive functioning skills where people may find either these strengths or these challenges. And I know for me, my ADHD diagnosis, I can identify with quite a few of those 11 executive function challenges. So I would say that whether there's ASD, there's dyslexia, there's dyspraxia, there's ADHD, I think that our executive functions fall below that, that there definitely can be things that make our everyday experience of ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia heightened. And what I love about working with executive functioning, so when we do our coaching, I find it really powerful that we are able to support everyone in the work that we do, not only people with a diagnosis, and definitely neurodivergent or neurotypical. So I find it really helpful to be able to support everyone in that sense.
Amazing. That's really helpful. Fantastic questions, everyone. Keep them coming. These are brilliant. A question here from Robbie. What would be a good business case to get employers or organizations to focus on executive function and supporting their neurodiverse employees?
Such a great question. As I say, we do have a webinar that we run at various stages of the year. We've also got a recording of one that we recently did as well. Neurodiversity, neuroinclusivity, neurobelonging as well in the workplace. So I can also shoot that over to the team. You're welcome to either email me, email our team, info@connectionsinmind.co.uk, and we can shoot some of those links over to you as well. We've got recordings of those. I think our next live one is only going to be in a couple of months, but absolutely, we talk about how do you actually start to introduce this to our bosses, to our colleagues as well, so that we can get the support that we need. Absolutely. And I get so excited on our coach training that we have at the moment. I've got 4 HR managers who are learning more about executive functioning. They're learning more about how to support people in the workplace. We've even had senior leadership teams come and do our training as well, so that they can not only understand neurodiversity, but also then how to support and create an inclusive culture. I think that's really important. So I can definitely send through some of those links. We've also got a couple of really interesting blog posts. So please, as I say, you're more than welcome to email us at info@connectionsinmind. You can even ask for it to be forwarded to me, and then I can respond to those questions there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think whenever we talk about kind of, trying to build business cases and speak to bosses and business leaders around building business cases for sort of neuro inclusion, really, I kind of always think of it as kind of a sales process, and really thinking about the drivers for that organization and what is that organization trying to achieve. Because the good thing about neuro inclusion is it's so flexible. The things that can bring to an organization are so broad, from staff well-being, reduced attrition, improved innovation, improved productivity. It's such a valuable resource that you're tapping into. It can really speak to any pain point that your business is trying to address, which is so it's just about, for me, it's just about understanding what those pain points in that organization are, and then building that business case for that. Look, we've got lots and lots of questions coming in, but I think we are going to have to wrap up there. We absolutely will answer all the remaining questions after the event, but thank you so much to everybody for kind of coming along. And thank you, a massive thank you to Casey, who has given us an amazing talk and lots to think about, and for us sharing a handout. And we've recorded the webinar, so that is going to be shared with you afterwards, as well as all the resources. So thank you so much, Casey, for that. And thank you to everybody who's participated. This has been a very sort of inclusive and talk where using Menti, so that's been fantastic. So thank you everybody for participating and for all your questions. We do provide CPD certificates, so as you leave, there'll be a survey link. If you can fill that out, we'll send a CPD certificate after that to you. Those survey links are really useful. We put on these events every month for free, and we want to make sure that we are, getting feedback, improving them, getting requests for future topics, speaker suggestions. So it takes a couple of seconds, but if you can do that, super helpful. As I said, this session is recorded. You'll get an email with today's recording and a transcript in the next day or so, and it'll also pop onto LinkedIn as well. These are monthly webinars. So our next webinar is Thursday, the 9th of May. It is, lots of you are already signed up for it, I can see. So if you're not signed up yet, then yeah, we'll send a link so you can sign up. It is Danielle Kudjoe-Mikowski, who's going to be our presenter, and she's the founder of Thinking Light Coach, and she's also a TEDx speaker. And she's going to be talking to us about how to create neuro-inclusive culture, sharing lessons from her journey in the corporate world. So following on really nicely from today's webinar. So look out for an invite in the email tomorrow. Finally, last thing to mention is this is the last webinar that I'm going to be hosting. I've absolutely loved hosting these webinars since July when we started and watching the community grow. But next month I'm going to be an attendee, and Claire, who behind the scenes has been doing a huge amount of organizing and getting this all up and running and building this community, she's going to be stepping up and hosting it, and she's going to do a much better job than me too. So yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been joining, built this community, participated. I've loved hosting it. I'm sure I'll host future ones, but Claire's going to be your host for next month, where we hopefully see all of you again. And we will, yeah, we'll say bye for now and see you next month.